The glass walls of Richardson Tech shook as CEO Ashley Brooks slammed her hand on the desk. Across the room stood Deshawn, the black janitor still holding a mop, eyes lowered. Ashley's voice cut like a whip. "You let a janitor teach my daughter math." Her 11-year-old, Emma, froze in the doorway, clutching her notebook. The silence was heavy enough to crush the air. Ashley's face burned red with fury and privilege. "Do you have any idea what I pay for private tutors? And you think someone who cleans floors can replace them?" Deshawn's voice trembled but stayed steady. "Ma'am, your daughter just asked for help. I only showed her a simple way to see numbers." Ashley scoffed, eyes flashing. "You're out of line. Pack your things before I call security." Tears filled Emma's eyes. "Mom, he made me understand math for the first time." The words hung like a spark in gasoline. Deshawn looked between mother and daughter, heartbreak in his eyes, because he'd been here before, judged before being heard. If this already made your blood boil, hit like and subscribe right now, because stories like this are still happening and the world needs to hear them. Ashley turned away, convinced she was protecting her family's image, not realizing she just buried a truth that would expose her own prejudice. Long after the offices went dark, the sound of a mop sliding across the marble floor echoed through the halls. It was past 8 when Emma wandered in again, her backpack dragging, math book half open. "Mr. Deshawn," she whispered, "I can't figure out these stupid equations." Deshawn smiled softly, setting the mop aside. "All right, little miss, let's make it simple. You like cookies?" Emma giggled and nodded. "Okay, then picture this. You bake 10 cookies and eat 4. How many left? 6. Exactly. Now replace cookies with numbers, and you just solve subtraction." Her eyes lit up like she'd unlocked a secret. Every night became the same. Emma waiting for her mom to finish meetings, while Deshawn turned the cold office library into a classroom. He never sat, always kept distance, speaking gently, like he was guarding something fragile. And in those moments, Emma saw what her mother never did. Not a janitor, but a teacher. Each problem they solved felt like a bridge built between two lonely souls, one forgotten by success, the other by her own mother's attention. What started as a few lessons became the only part of her day she looked forward to. The quiet magic of those evenings didn't stay secret for long. One night, a secretary walking by the library paused and saw Deshawn kneeling beside Emma's desk, explaining a math problem. By morning, whispers spread like wildfire. The janitor's been spending time with the CEO's daughter after hours. When the rumor reached Ashley Brooks, it exploded inside her like gasoline on a spark. She stormed into the building before sunrise, heels striking floor like gunshots. Within minutes, Deshawn was called to conference room, the same one he cleaned every night. Ashley didn't let him speak. "How dare you cross that line? Teaching my child behind my back." Deshawn swallowed hard. "Ma'am," she was struggling, "I just wanted to help." "You are not paid to help. You're paid to clean." Her voice echoed off the glass walls. The HR officer stood silent, eyes down. Emma rushed in, clutching her math book. "Mom, please. He's not a bad man. He just teaches me better than anyone." Ashley's hand trembled with rage, not because she was right, but because she was afraid of being wrong. Security escorted Deshawn out, and the little girl who finally loved learning was left staring at an empty doorway. If this happened right in front of you, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. And if you want justice as much as I do, hit subscribe. The next morning, the HR director placed a thick folder on Ashley's desk. "You asked for a full background check on Deshawn Carter. You might want to read this first." Ashley flipped through the pages, and her breath caught. Before becoming a janitor, Deshawn Carter had been Professor Carter, a mathematics lecturer at a prestigious university. Degrees from Howard and MIT, dozens of research papers, awards for teaching excellence. Then one headline changed everything. Campus tragedy claims professor's daughter in shooting. A small photo showed a smiling young woman in a graduation gown. His daughter. Ashley froze, the paper trembling in her hands. He hadn't just been a teacher. He'd been a father who lost everything, retreating into silence and labor just to survive. For the first time, guilt hit her harder than pride ever had. She remembered his calm voice, his respect, his patience, and how she'd thrown it away in a moment of blind judgment. The woman who prided herself on intelligence had just realized how ignorant she truly was. That evening, Ashley found Deshaun sitting alone on a park bench outside the company gates, his janitor's badge lying beside him. The man looked tired, more from years of carrying quiet pain than from work. She approached slowly. "Mr. Carter, I read your file." Deshaun didn't look up. "Then you know why I keep to myself." Her voice cracked. "I judged you before I even knew your name. I saw your skin, your uniform, and I assumed the worst." He turned his eyes toward her, calm but heavy. "You saw a black janitor and thought danger. You didn't see a teacher or a father or a man just try to help a child understand the world better." Ashley's throat tightened. "You're right. I failed as a mother and as a human being." The wind carried silence between them. Thick, honest, uncomfortable. Finally, Deshaun sighed. "Pain makes people blind. I've lived long enough to know that. But what you do after realizing your mistake, that's what defines you." Ashley nodded, tears falling freely. For once, she wasn't the CEO or the boss or the perfectionist, just a mother who'd broken something pure and didn't know how to fix it. 2 weeks later, Ashley returned to the same boardroom where she once yelled at Deshaun, but this time, she wasn't there to accuse him. She was there to make things right. A projector displayed new slides as she spoke to her stunned executives. "We're launching the Carter Fellowship for Education Quality, a scholarship to honor a man who reminded us that brilliance doesn't wear a suit." At the back of the room, Deshaun stood in his old uniform, quiet, humbled. Ashley turned toward him. "And I want him to lead it, not as a janitor, but as Professor Deshaun Carter." Gasps filled the room. For the first time in years, Deshaun smiled, a real smile, small but alive. He accepted the offer with a simple nod. "I'll do it for every child who needs a chance, and for the little girl who believed in me when no one else did." Weeks later, the office library transformed into a classroom. Deshaun taught again. Kids of all colors filling the seats, including Emma, beaming with pride. Ashley watched from the doorway, realizing this wasn't charity. It was justice. The janitor she once dismissed was now shaping futures, and her own daughter was his brightest student. A few months later, the office felt different, brighter, warmer, human. Every afternoon, Emma ran down the hall to meet Professor Deshaun Carter, her eyes glowing with curiosity. He no longer carried a mop, only a whiteboard marker and quiet pride. One evening, Ashley peeked into the classroom. Emma was explaining equations to new students, her voice confident and kind. "It's not about numbers," she said. "It's about understanding people, like Mr. Carter taught me." Ashley's throat tightened. For once, she didn't interrupt, didn't correct. She just listened. When the class ended, Deshaun turned to her with a small nod. "She's got your fire and her own light." Ashley smiled, eyes wet. "No, she's got yours." "You reminded us both what real education and respect looks like." As they stood in that glowing room full of hope, the world outside felt a little less cruel, a little more equal. Deshaun had found purpose again. Ashley had found humility. And Emma, she found the kind of teacher who changes lives. If you believe this should never happen again, share this now. And to my USA, UK, and Canadian viewers, your voice is power. Use it.